And welcome in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, and we are getting ready for another packed evening on the hardwood here tonight. Just 25 games in college basketball set, but we do have a full slate in the association as some teams tonight, in fact, will be playing their last game before the All-Star break. All-Star game is coming up this weekend. So this is kind of the final go around before a little vacation in the NBA, which is always an interesting time to look at some of these games and maybe find an angle or two or some teams that are looking very forward to having a couple of days off here. They don't resume a full schedule back to the regular season until next Thursday on the 22nd. So that means for some teams, they are going to get a little reprieve here, heal up, and get ready for that final push before the NBA playoffs come around. So there is much to get to on that front. Again, just 5 games tonight. Tomorrow is an absolutely loaded, the final big slate before they all take a break here and get ready for what I of all the All-Star games. Can somebody please explain to me how watching two teams drop 400 points is somehow exciting? But apparently that is the way the NBA likes to go about it. So we will have that this weekend to gush over. In the meantime, we are now done with football. And now that the Super Bowl, the NFL, college football has all come and gone, now all of a sudden there's going to be an awful lot of folks that are trying to figure out what to do with their sports watching habits, or maybe even those that might be new to the sports betting world and going, well, what am I supposed to do now? Well, we thought it would be a good idea if maybe we got you caught up with a little bit of what's been going on in college hoops, because if you thought the Super Bowl was big, then just wait until we get until March and March Madness hits, because that is when the true craziness happens, simply because it's not just one day. It's not just a big Sunday that 24 million people tune in to watch. No. It is a multiple week craziness, and there is nothing like it on this planet when it comes to sports and sports betting. Anybody and most people have absolutely had their fill of maybe a one of those office pools maybe that you get into. Here, fill out a bracket, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know any of these teams. It doesn't matter. Fill it out. Yeah, that's March Madness. And it's going to promise to be, I think, this year, as opposed to maybe some other years. We had FAU last year as the possible Cinderella, made it to the Final Four, and most people had absolutely no idea who the FAU Owls were prior to March Madness last year. Could this be the year of the Cinderella team? Could it be a lower seed, maybe a 6, 7, 8, 9 seed? Playing for a championship? There has certainly been the discussion of this year in college basketball having much more parity than we have seen in other years. Now, we all love the idea of a Cinderella team, but the problem is it often doesn't work out like that. It's usually a number 1 seed or a number 2 seed playing for the national championship. And last year we had UConn, in fact, Connecticut, the defending champions. They were up there, and they ended up taking the trophy. Now, the interesting part about that is that they are the number 1 team in the country right now. And we just came out of the Kansas City Chiefs repeated as world champions. Well, it is not out of the question that we can see that happen in college basketball either. Those of you that are just jumping in to the college basketball realm here, here's what you need to know. The Huskies, 22-2. They have now won 12 straight, and they have been on top of the AP poll there, the top 25. I believe it's going on 5 consecutive weeks now. This team is once again absolutely loaded, which is interesting given the fact that they lost 3 players to the NBA in the offseason. And they absolutely reloaded. They do have a bunch of players that did come back. Klingon came back. Tristan Newton came back. Caravan came back. They did have a couple of transfers here. The reality is UConn is every bit as talented and dangerous as they were 1 year ago. So the fact that we had a repeat in the NFL as champion, do not be shocked if we have a repeat as a champion in college basketball. Keep that in mind, because some of the teams trying to chase UConn down, well, welcome to Purdue and the name Zach Edey, which if you have even casually followed college basketball over the last couple of seasons, you no doubt have heard the name Zach Edey and Purdue putting together once again another one of those seasons where player of the year, very possible, averaging close to 24 points a game, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks. The Naismith player of the year, I believe, is the award they give out, kind of like their version of the Heisman. Yes, I can also see, guess who won that last year? Yeah, that's right, Zach Edey. We could actually get a repeat winner with that trophy. I can absolutely see it. In fact, the last time that we have seen it, you have to go all the way back to 1981 through 1983. Ralph Sampson won 3 straight MVP awards, Player of the Year awards, the Naismith Player of the Year awards. We have not seen anything like that in a while. And my goodness, this Purdue team with Zach Edey, the defending Player of the Year, in all likelihood going to win it again, knock on wood, they all stay healthy. He's got himself quite the point guard this year, too, in Braden Smith. Purdue is a very dangerous team. It's no doubt they will be one of the top 2 or 3 teams once the regular season is over. And I know what you're saying. What about Kansas? Isn't Kansas always good? And yes, they are usually always good. And they're good this year, but they're not elite. And maybe that's the biggest difference here as we start getting down to some of the teams that you're used to hearing about, like the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, Bill Self, the highest paid coach, I believe, in college now with that new deal that he just signed. At home, Fog Allen, unbeatable still. On the road, they're 2-5 this year. That's not very Kansas-like. And that's the big difference this year with a few other teams as well that we'll go over as we continue to get you caught up here. College basketball on our minds. We'll continue with it. Game Time Decisions next here on The Grid.
$200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. the New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. On this Tuesday now, February the 13th, it is life after football for many of us, trying to get acclimated to what else is going on in the sports world. Well, in addition to the NBA All-Star break coming up this weekend, we've got plenty of college basketball, and we certainly thought it would be good to take a couple of minutes here for those of you that may be joining us and going, well, what in the world am I supposed to look at now? Well, pitchers and catchers are just a couple of weeks away there as spring training is getting ready to kick off here in South Florida as well as Arizona. But college basketball and March Madness will be here before we know it. And just a quick rundown of some of the teams and some of the players that you might want to get to know here before March Madness. As we told you, we've got UConn, the defending champs, are the number one team in the country. They are every bit as good, if not better, than the team that won the national championship last year. They are a team worth keeping an eye on. They are currently the number one team. They've been there at that number one spot at 22-2 on the season for, I believe, the last 5 weeks for the AP Top 25. They've won 12 straight. They are a team that don't be surprised if UConn is certainly Final Four bound and playing for another national championship. We told you about Purdue and Zach Edey, the number 2 team in the country. That should come as a shock to nobody, as Purdue and Zach Edey were pretty good last year as well. In fact, he was the Naismith Player of the Year last year, the big 7'4" Zach Edey. Well, he's the front runner again this year to win that award. And then we told you about Kansas. And while Kansas is always a dangerous team, the problem here with Bill Self's team is that they aren't as dangerous as they have been in years past, mostly because they are fantastic at Fog Allen on their own home court, 13-0. They actually beat UConn there. They've beaten Houston. They've beaten Oklahoma and Baylor. The problem is when they go on the road, they are 2-5 on the road this year. They've lost to UCF. They've lost to Kansas State. They've lost to West Virginia. These are not usually teams that we associate losses with when it comes to the Kansas Jayhawks. So they just lost last night, in fact, as currently, I believe, the number 6 team in the country. They got absolutely smoked by Texas Tech in Lubbock. But again, they have had a couple of people that were unavailable to them, namely Kevin McCullough, their leading scorer. Not great, this Kansas team. They are very thin, and they can ill afford to have some of their starters not available to them, and that's exactly what happened to them last night, and Texas Tech took total advantage of it. So keep in mind, we still have a lot of college basketball to go here, including a very important game here tonight. And I know what you're saying. Well, you talked to Kansas, you got UConn. What about Kentucky? Yes, everybody's favorite team to underperform each and every year. That would be the Kentucky Wildcats, currently sitting at number 22 in the country. And maybe this is the most mind-blowing stat that you will hear all night long. Kentucky has lost 3 straight games at home at Rupp Arena. That is the first time that has happened since 1966. Unbelievable. And it's not because they don't have a bunch of 5-star recruits starting for them as freshmen. No. Calipari's got a loaded team here. Remember the name: Antonio Reeves, Rod Dillingham, Reed Shepard. These guys can absolutely shoot teams out of the gym. What's the problem here, though? Well, the problem is, guess what, guys? Yeah, they absolutely do not play any defense. And that is the problem that we have with this team. No defense means, guess what? Going to be very difficult to win games on the road, much less at home, given the fact that they have now dropped 3 in a row and are on their way, possibly tonight, to dropping a 4th, if you can believe that. Absolutely crazy here with the way Kentucky has just dominated in years past at Rupp Arena, but has not been able to do that. Hoping and praying that Kentucky can get it done here tonight in a big, big game against Ole Miss. And that's kind of what we're hoping for. We're hoping Ole Miss doesn't play spoiler and make it a 4th straight loss at home. 8.5 is what this number is, and that alone should be a wake-up call, because at 8.5 points at home for Kentucky, they are usually double-digit favorites over everybody. It shouldn't matter. Not so much tonight. There is a little hesitation, and I don't blame people for being a little concerned. Yes, they can drop 80 on anybody. The problem is they can't stop people from scoring 80 points or more. And Ole Miss is a top 10 3-point shooting team in the country this year. And yes, they are going to be bombs away here tonight. The under, ironically enough, also seems to be getting a little bit of love here. Maybe expecting a spirited effort tonight against Ole Miss at home, because they can ill afford to lose a 4th straight at Rupp Arena. Maybe Calipari. The rumors are starting to surface as maybe the game has passed him by. I doubt it very much, but it's going to be interesting to watch that game tonight. One of the must-watch games for sure. Also, we have another one of those situations in which has been so profitable in college basketball up tonight, and that is when you have an unranked home favorite taking on a ranked opponent. Just to give you an idea, that this year alone is 20-12 straight up, 63% backing that unranked home favorite. And guess what? That's exactly what Cincinnati is tonight here, getting ready to take on ranked Iowa State. So Iowa State, top 25 team here, but you know what? They're not the favorite. And I know what you're saying. What in the world? How do we have a ranked team getting points from an unranked team? Well, that's why. We're talking about this system alone. 20-12 straight up this season, but it wasn't just this season. 63-25 since the start of last season. This has been a huge spot over the last 2 years to back that unranked home favorite, and that is what the market is doing here tonight when it comes to Cincinnati getting ready to take on Iowa State, a game I am looking very forward to seeing because I think that one could be interesting. And we've got revenge on our mind for those of you Syracuse Orangemen fans. They are home taking on another top 5 team here, and in fact, a number 3 team there with North Carolina. North Carolina and Syracuse tonight. 7.5 is what North Carolina is laying with a total of 157.5. If Syracuse is making 3-point shots, which I can promise you they're going to put up, then this game might get to 200 points before it's all said and done, because I'm fairly certain nothing Syracuse can do here tonight is going to stop North Carolina's offense. They are the one team outside of UConn that could make it very, very uncomfortable for them come tournament time. So you've got a lot of teams in the top 25 getting ready to go at it. You've got some great late games, and we've got you covered. We're going to dive into all of these, plus the 5-game NBA slate with Coach James Young. We'll see if we can find some winners for you as Game Time Decision rolls on here on the grid.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Tuesday now, February 13th. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you hanging with us here on the SportsGrid Network as we are getting ready for All-Star Break Weekend. That's right, the NBA getting ready for the All-Star Game, which means just 5 games on the card here tonight. And a few teams might just be playing their last game before the break. And for many teams, this is actually a pretty good time to maybe take a few days off and heal up before they come back a week from Thursday. In fact, next Thursday, they will resume the regular season schedule. But between now and Friday, 5 games tonight, loaded slate tomorrow, and then I believe just 3 games is what we're going to be looking at here as they get ready for the All-Star Game. That's going to be, of course, on the 15th. So in a couple of days, Thursday, that's all we'll have, just a 3-game slate, and then it's off to All-Star Weekend. But one of those teams tonight that will be playing their final game before the All-Star break is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I believe would love a couple of days off here. It would do them pretty good as stories and headlines revolving around maybe just getting a little bit fatigued here, especially the big man, Chet Holmgren, who, don't forget, this is his first full season in the NBA as he got hurt his rookie season in the summer league and didn't get a chance to play last year. So he's going through it, the big man, right now. So a couple of days off might actually prove to be pretty good there for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The problem is they have got to take on a team that has been absolutely fantastic down the stretch here over the last couple of weeks, the Orlando Magic. They're gone now 6-2 straight up in their last 8. That includes being 7-1 against the number. And maybe the most amazing part about the Orlando Magic here tonight is I'm not seeing anybody on the injury report, which is it's been a long, long time since the Orlando Magic were 100% healthy. And if you look at that record, well, that tells you everything you need to know. I mean, listen, the Orlando Magic have never been short of talent. Banchero's an absolute monster. Franz Wagner, absolute monster. Suggs is playing out of his mind. They have got a ton, and I mean an absolute ton of depth. They've got a ton of size in there, and they got some guys that can shoot. The problem with the Orlando Magic is they can never stay healthy as a unit there, as a team. Well, that's exactly what we have gotten as of late, which is fantastic because they're playing some of their best basketball, and we get them at home tonight as a dog. At last look, I think we were getting 2, maybe 2.5 is what Orlando at home as a dog going up against OKC, as you can see there, total of 223, and I think that's starting to creep up here a little bit. Listen, OKC, they just beat Sacramento on Sunday, but in their last 8 games, just for comparison, we told you Orlando, 7-1 against the number, 6-2 straight up. Well, OKC's been going through it. This is that last game before the break, and it couldn't come soon enough. They're just 4-4 straight up, but they're 2-6 against the number in their last 8 games. This is a team that would love to finish off this first half of the season, right, with a win going into the All-Star break. But quite honestly, OKC at this point is just looking, it's kind of like being the dude that's, knows tomorrow's starts their vacation, and you know what happens with people, right? They get into the office, and they're like, yeah, listen, dude, when that bell rings, like when it's 5 o'clock, I'm out of here. Like, there's no way I am working at all on this last day here. And that's kind of what I think we're going to get from OKC tonight. Maybe they're planning on where they're going to be playing golf. Some of these guys going home, going to the beach. Some of these guys are going to have way other things on their mind outside of trying to beat the Orlando Magic, who, quite honestly, are playing the best that we have seen them all year long. And getting them at this kind of price, getting points, better form, healthier. Yeah, I think Orlando is a team that we absolutely have to look at here tonight on this limited slate of games. I can tell you also, the Miami Heat are just going through it here in my neck of the woods, as we learned, of course, over the weekend that Jimmy Butler had a death in the family, and unfortunately, he is going to be away from the team. We also know that Rozier, good old Scary Terry there, that they traded for, from Charlotte. It was supposed to be the guy that was going to help, level them up here a little bit offensively. Well, he almost got absolutely toasted. He's got a shoulder injury, but the good news is, apparently, they don't think it's going to be anything long-term. But again, with the All-Star weekend and the break coming up, the Miami Heat are without a doubt a team that could use a little time off, as we welcome in the one and only, the coach, James Young, in the house, joining us here on the SportsGrid Network, GameTime Decisions. And, Coach, is it crazy that Miami Heat being a little banged up here, no Jimmy Butler, we get it, right? Rozier's going to be out at least until after the All-Star break. I still don't trust the Milwaukee Bucks laying 9 points, 8 points, because we've seen this with Miami where they truly are the next man up mentality. They're not going to change their game. This ain't Charlotte. You're not going to run them over. It feels like maybe an indictment on the Bucks, because I just don't trust them to lay close to double digits over the Miami Heat.
No, especially good to be honest with you, Joe, especially with the fact that you turn around and they absolutely blitzed Denver last night. I understand they're in their same building, but a back-to-back is a back-to-back. And if you look at a Miami team that has covered its last 3 games against the spread, including a loss by 4 to Boston. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, they got boat raced by about 40, right? So if there is a guy that one game will get all of these guys pissed off, you're not good enough. Everybody expects you to blow them out, get blown out. You're going to get embarrassed, yada, yada, yada. They just beat Denver. If there's a guy, Joe Raineri, that for one game can take a bunch of cast-offs and steal a game, his name is Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah, they've been there and done that, Coach. I was just talking, too, coming up 7:30 here, one of the, I believe, 6 total games that we have here tonight. It feels like Oklahoma City is that dude who his vacation starts tomorrow. This is their final game before the All-Star break. So, they're 4-4. They're 2-6 against the number in their last 8. It seems like OKC could use a little breather here. And yet Orlando is finally fully healthy, Coach. And they are crushing it right now. They're at home. They've got another game coming up before the All-Star break, but give me 2.5 points with the healthier team. I don't know how I'm not backing Orlando in this one tonight.
Well, Joe, I'm not with you on this one because I'm going the other way. I am taking the Thunder on the money line tonight. I understand that they have not covered 3 of the last 4 games. But that was at Dallas, at Utah. They came home to Sacramento, and obviously they have this game tonight. So this is a big spot for a team, to me, that does play both offense and defense well. I think they're in the top 6 or 7 in field goal shooting percentage, offense and scoring defense, in one of those metrics. But a team like Orlando, who is good defensively, even though they're starting to get healthy, they have, Joe, struggled a little bit offensively as of late. Overall, big spot here for the Thunder. And, Joe, we talked about this. This whole seeding for the West is going to be an absolute train wreck. And right now, I think they're 2, Clippers are 3, Phoenix is 6. You want to be the 1 or the 4 or 5, even though that means you go through Denver. So I do like this spot for Oklahoma City. I think they're just more balanced on both sides. So I'm going to take the Thunder on the money line. But a sneaky prop to look at, folks, I'm about to tell you something. Don't laugh at me. Markelle Fultz over 6.5 rebounds plus assists. He's gone over 12 out of 20 games, 4 out of the last 6 in the starting lineup. Sneaky good rebounding guard. Joe, the game's going to get up and down in pace. Markelle Fultz over 6.5 rebounds plus assists.
Well, I'll go one even further here, Coach. What this game represents is the 2025 NBA Finals. You heard me say it here. I want you to clip this, Friezo. Remember this a year from now when Orlando and OKC are battling for a championship. You know who said it. I probably shouldn't have had that brownie on second thought. All right, Coach. I want to get your thoughts on what happened there with your New York Knicks last night here against the Houston. I know. I figured you had something to say about that. We do have a few other games to go over there on the slate tonight in the association before a little break here for the All-Star weekend. We got a loaded slate in college hoops getting ready to start here at the top of the hour, so we'll talk about some of those games. We're just getting started. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside the coach, James Young, here as we've got plenty of top 25 action in college hoops we're going to get to. A couple more games in the NBA, but I want to turn back the clock here, Coach, because we talked yesterday about the New York Knicks taking on the Houston Rockets there, and it was brought all the way down to almost a pick'em before tip-off there because Hartenstein wasn't playing, or the injuries were piling up. We like, wow, this is a coin flip game. And you had said, yeah, a coin flip game. You like the Knicks. They've done a really good job of beating up the sub 500 teams. Well, they didn't look really good until about the fourth quarter last night. It wasn't looking good for them, but they managed to wipe away a 16-point deficit throughout that game. And they almost had a chance to win this game, except for a little thing at the end of that game called a whistle on a heave-ho that almost never gets called. And ultimately it cost them. And Jalen Brunson, of all the guys, was the one they called the whistle on here. What did you think of that call at the end of the game there?
What do you mean think about that call? That call sucked. I
Wait, Jalen Brunson said it was a great call.
I just had dinner, so I have to unbutton my jacket. The jacket a little bit too tight for me right now. But let me explain something to you folks. As a coach, the one thing that you don't ever want to do is say after the game that the referees decided it. And when there's a busted play like that, and it's a shot from 35 feet away, you better be Bill goddamn Goldberg, and you better spear someone, Roman Reigns, decleat someone. That's for you, K-Dub. Roman Reigns, spear someone. That's the only way you got to foul. I think last week Draymond sat there and almost killed someone. They didn't call no damn foul. So the key is this. When you go to shoot, you are in the act of shooting until the ball hits the rim. So at any point until when you release the ball, until the ball hits the rim, you're in the act of shooting. And people remember the old Hubert Davis play by Hugh Hollins back in the 94 Eastern Conference semifinals between the Knicks and the Bulls. You remember that, Joe? That late whistle in Game 5.
Yep.
What happens is this: you get the vertical plane, right? That is the offensive space. So when he went to go shoot, yes, does Brunson get him a little bit on the left? Well, I think I'm on the left arm a little bit. Yes. But at 35-foot shot at the buzzer, you can't call that. Now, here comes the part with the rules of the NBA. Do know, folks, that New York did challenge in the second quarter on a block charge call. They had no challenges remaining. And I checked to a former player of mine who refs in the NBA. And here's the rule. You cannot, even in the last 2 minutes, you are looking at possession and time on the clock. You cannot reverse the foul call if there isn't a challenge available. So what the NBA is going to have to think about is end of game. If you win your first challenge, do you get a second challenge? If it's the last minute or 2 minutes, do they do it like football where they go to a booth review, right? Where they go to the replay center, they buzz in, they stop the game because they can communicate with the referees in their ear. There's going to have to be something because honestly, Joe, and I had the Knicks +1 because it moved all the way. It was a fantastic game. I mean, it really was. I mean, it came down the wire, and I would have been perfectly okay if that game went another 5 to 10 minutes. Perfectly okay with it. But unfortunately, the refs overshadow it, and obviously the lead official going on record to the pool reporters and admitting it isn't the best look. You know, my one former player said, he ain't going to lie. He's got to tell the truth. Usually what happens, folks, is when a referee blows a call like that, they will go up to the coach and they just say, hey, I missed it. I blew it. I blew the call. I don't know what to tell you. And 9 times out of 10, as a coach, we're going to be like, all right, they're human. They make a mistake. It's the foul It's the fact that it wasn't a foul. It was the fact of replay. It was the fact that then Ed Malloy went on later, 20 minutes later, and said, yeah, shouldn't have been a foul. Game should have went to overtime.
Yeah, and Ed Malloy been around the block here, but such is life. I'm sure it'll all even itself out at some point. Or maybe here's another thing: don't be trailing by 16 points to a sub 500 team and leave it that it has to come up with that. But that's a whole different situation there. We do have one other game coming up in the 7 o'clock hour here tonight. I know you've got a couple of plays on, so let's hit that before we dive in to some of the college games here. Talk to me about the Celtics here tonight, Coach, taking on the Brooklyn Nets on the road. A little different, Celtics on the road. What are you looking at to play in this game, 7:30 tip?
I'm going to go to Drew Holiday, and I'm going to go with points points plus rebounds, which is sitting at about 18 and a half. And I think it's one of those things, which when you look at a guy like Drew Holiday, he's going to be the defensive maestro. So he's going to be able to do a lot of things. Now it's moved. Some books have it at 19 and a half. Do shop around. He has hit this in 7 out of his last 11 games. I do think this is a game that I actually think I didn't want to touch the spread, Joe, because I think it may be actually close. 4 out of the last 6 games over versus Brooklyn. So I do think that this will be a decent game. I don't think it's going to be a huge blowout. I'll be honest with you. I think the Nets are, hate to say it, folks, they're much better with Ben Simmons there. They're more competitive. So I like that. And a sneaky play that I didn't talk to, I said it to Friezel before, is I actually like Ben Simmons over his points, rebounds, and assists. I think it's at 17 and a half. Low numbers, like 5.5 points. I'm going to put it together. I think Brooklyn will hang around. Ben will be in the mix. 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He got to 22 in his last game versus Boston.
Yeah, Porzingis out in this one. Cameron Jordan also out here. 7:30 for that one there, guys. We'll come back, of course, next hour. We've got a couple of games. 3 late-night games here on the West Coast beginning at 10 p.m. We'll talk about those, but let's dive into some of these college games here, Coach, as we get ready for the tip at 7 o'clock, top of this hour. Some great games here tonight. The Johnnies are in action, and dare I say, in a must-win spot, Rick Pitino, but is he really going to the dunk and upending Providence? We got Michigan, Illinois. We got a North Carolina, Syracuse, Virginia, Pittsburgh. Where are you taking us here, Coach?
Well, one game I like that, sorry, I already tipped off already, so let's see what the line is I did like Marquette -4 at Butler. I think Marquette is solidly the second best team in the Big East. People talk about UConn being, along with Purdue, as the co-favorites to win the national championship. I think Marquette is in that next tier with the play of Tyler Kolek and what a job Shaka Smart has done at Marquette for taking over for Steve Wojciechowski. So they're up 16-9. So you got to shop around and see what kind of live numbers you have there. I didn't bring it up on my scouting report, but I do not like St. John's on the road at the Dunk. I know it ain't the Dunk, Joe. It's the Dunk.
It's the Dunk.
It's like you go to Pittsburgh, you go to play the Steelers. It's the big ketchup bottle. It's not Accenture, life insurance, car insurance, Bernie Madoff Stadium. I don't know what it is, but it's the big ketchup bottle, right? You're going to the Dunk. The Dunk is a really tough place to play. The only team that went in there and won was Seton Hall, and that's when the one kid got hurt. Just too much to overcome. They're getting healthier, a team in Providence. I like Providence on the money line tonight versus St. John's. Majority of the money has been going towards Providence all day.
Yeah, St. John's 2-5 on the road. To your point there, Coach. Providence 12-2 at the Dunk at home this year, and over the last 3 years, Coach, 43-5 straight up. I ain't getting in front of that. Sorry, no. Johnny's not buying it at all. Not going to do it there. Have to wait until you get home there. Kentucky's not losing a fourth game, Coach. Are they at Rupp Arena? They're not losing 4 straight at home, are they?
Well, they're a mess, and here's the thing, folks. The The birdies, the more they lose, the more the birdies are going to start to chirp with Cal. And to me, here's the thing. They've lost 3 in a row at home. I don't even know you may have to go get an encyclopedia to go find the last time that happened. But they're playing
1966.
So old that neither Joe nor I were born when that went down. Now, listen, when you look at this game, you're right. Maybe Joe was probably born then, but we're not going to talk about his age. He uses Just for Men, and he's got way more hair than me. He's got a way better head of lettuce than I do. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. When you look at this game, I think Kentucky probably wins, but there's no way in hell with the way they're playing with a guy as good as Chris Beard that I'm going to turn around and I'm going to not get 9.5, 8.5 points. I think Ole Miss hangs in this game. I know they've had their struggles a little bit on the road, but against the spread, they are 4-1 against the spread their last 5. And 2 of those games, guys, at Texas A&M, win outright out at South Carolina. One of the surprise teams in the country was, I think they were lost by 3 and they covered that spread. So to me, I think too many points. If this was like 3, 3.5, 4.5, yeah, I'd take Kentucky. This is about what's on the front of the jersey and not how they're playing. Give me Ole Miss plus the points. Plus, DJ Wagner, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. DJ Wagner, folks, has a busted ankle. He is not healthy. He has sat out games. He is not well, and that kind of hurts the rotation and the depth of Kentucky.
Well, and they also they don't play defense, Coach.
Oh, no, God, no.
It's and it's got to be dry because Calipari knows, listen, you got more than enough firepower between Reed, Shepard, Dillingham. You got enough guys that can bomb away, but if you can't stop anybody from scoring 80 points, and that's the problem when you have, Coach, and you notice 5 5-star players, they don't have to play defense coming up, right? And what high school did they have to play defense? They don't care. And look at what's happening now. They're losing, getting embarrassed at home because they won't sacrifice and they won't play any defense.
And listen, I'll say this. You know, my friends' kids, Frankie and Mikey, they play better defense than the kids at Kentucky right now. I mean, that 6 and 4-year-old, they can run a 2-on-2 as good as anybody. These guys in Kentucky, they don't play no damn defense. And I'm going to say this, folks, and I said this before the season on the BHR podcast. If Cal does not make it to the second round of the NCAA tournament, if Jimbo Fisher gets fired from Texas A&M with that $51 million buyout, you think they're not buying out Calipari? He better turn around quick, or there's going to be a new coach in Lexington next year.
Yeah, you're gonna have to convince these guys to make a little effort and play a little bit of defense. Coach James Young, we got more coming your way here. Game Time Decisions on the Grid.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we get ready to close out this first hour. We've got much more to get to, including, how about a little same game parlay here tonight with our good friend, Davis Maddock. What's going on, Davis?
All right, guys, we're back for another same game parlay over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Heading to the NBA tonight, the Sacramento Kings traveling to play at the Phoenix Suns. The Suns are 5-point favorites, and that's where we are beginning our same game parlay, taking the Suns -5. Just a really bad matchup, honestly, for the Kings. Kevin Durant, so much size on Keegan Murray. Bad defensive matchup as well for the Kings' smaller guards. We're also going to take the over on 245.5. Then we're going to tack on two more legs, Kevin Durant to score 20 or more points and De'Aaron Fox to score 20 or more points. That gives us a nice 4-leg same game parlay of plus 391 odds. Suns -5, over 245.5. Kevin Durant to score 20 or more points and De'Aaron Fox to score 20 or more points. Good luck tonight, everybody.
All right. Thank you very much there, Davis Maddock. Outstanding stuff as always. A little same game parlay. In fact, we might have a little something coming up for you here in that Phoenix game. In fact, there's 3 very interesting late games in the NBA, and there's one really interesting one in the Mountain West for a late night game that I'm going to ask Coach James Young if he is a believer or non-believer in what's happening with Nevada and New Mexico. Big Mountain West battle coming up here late night. But NBA action here still to come first hour. OKC, Orlando, and Boston get ready to take on the Brooklyn Nets here. And then don't forget, Minnesota Timberwolves. Can they go back-to-back and win these games? Hell of a game last night against the Clippers. Now they take that show on the road to Portland. Could this be a letdown spot? We'll cover that when Game Time Decisions returns here on the Grid. All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Tuesday now, February the 13th. I'm Joe Raineri. Plenty going on the hardwood here tonight as college hoops, 25 games, a lot of top 25 teams, not to mention a couple of very intriguing home dogs tonight on the card. And, of course, the NBA getting ready to tip off bottom of this hour. OKC, Orlando, and Boston and Brooklyn. We welcome back in our man, the coach, James Young, trying to figure out how close he wants to sit behind the bench of a couple of upcoming games here. But let me tell you, well, listen, once a coach, always a coach, right? You move right down to the floor seats, you sit down, coach, and you do your thing, and I get that. But the one game we didn't get a chance to go, and I know on the list of some of the bets you got rolling tonight, Sacramento and Phoenix is intriguing. I am starting to see the total creep up here a little bit, which I don't think should surprise anybody. But I still don't know what to make of Phoenix. Are you buying them? Are you not buying them? Are you a believer? Or is this a fade of Sacramento maybe?
I am a believer that Kevin Durant's going to score over 26.5 points.
Oh,
I think
okay. All right.
I think that's where I'm going here. Listen, Kevin's been on a good clip here, and I really do think you have a situation here of a team that I think, if they're healthy, they're going to come out of the Western Conference. If they're healthy, I think it's going to come down to them and the Clippers. So Kevin Durant over 26.5 points. He has hit this in 4 of the last 6 games. And then as we bring in our radio audience, Coach Young, Joe Raineri, Game Time Decisions in for Kevin Walsh. Remember, folks, he's also gone over his last 3 meetings versus Sacramento. He's gone 27, 28, 27, model consistency. I think he goes over 26.5 points. I may even sprinkle a little plus money, 30 plus for KD tonight.
Ooh, big night for KD. I said it leading into this segment here, Coach. Minnesota upends the red-hot Clippers last night. Now they got to go on a road to Portland here, which has proven to be a giant pain in the you-know-what to some teams. Second of a back-to-back here. How are you approaching the Timberwolves here tonight?
Well, I think when you look at it, you have a Minnesota team that is very, very good offensively. So you can go a lot of different ways. I'm just going to lay the points, and I'm going to go over the rebounds for Karl Anthony Towns is at 6.5. Do shop around, folks, because it has creeped up to 7.5 now for Karl Anthony Towns. If you see 7.5, folks, you're probably going to see it at plus money. He has gone over in 4 out of the last 8 games, 6 out of the last 11. I think it's a low-hanging fruit because the team is not really good in regards to shooting. And the reason why I like Minnesota is because, number one, they're one of the best, if not the best defensive metric team in the NBA, Joe. But the other thing that's really important with Minnesota is the fact that offensively they shoot the ball well. They shoot the ball really well from 3, and they're going against a team that is banged up and is young. And I'm going to tell folks something right now. People in the NBA, everybody can play in the NBA, okay? If you think guys are scrubbed in the NBA, go against the worst guy in the league and try and check him one-on-one and see what happens to you. But here's the big problem, right? Brogdon's out. Scoot is questionable. Shaedon Sharp is out. Robert Williams is out. Like, they got like main guys that are out. So the guys they're going to play, they don't play because they don't play defense. So to me, another thing to look at, team total really low at 111.5 tonight. I've seen for Minnesota. I'd sprinkle a little bit of money on that as well.
Ooh, interesting. All right, let me ask you. I can't let you get out of here, Coach, before we rip the Lakers to shreds here. Who in the hell are the Lakers to be laying double digits? Now, perception reality here goes. The perception of Detroit is that, they're terrible, they're no good. But, my numbers tell me they have covered 3 straight, 6 of the last 7, 12 of the last 14, and 7 straight as a double-digit underdog. Why would I ever think about taking the Lakers in this game tonight?
Because they just think that people are just stupid and they're just going to give away money. I'm not touching this game. I'm not touching this game, folks. I mean, why would I do that? You know, I'm about a Detroit team that's covered the last. They're on a road trip, folks. They've covered all 3 games, right?
Yes.
They won at Sacramento by 13. They won at Portland, and they lost to the Clippers team, the hottest team in the NBA, by 6 as a 16-point underdog. You mean to tell me I'm going to go look at the Los Angeles Lakers and think that this team is worthy of what? Like, no. This is foolery. If you think you're going to do this, It is Pistons plus the points or nothing. And I'm going to say something that's as crazy as I've ever said on this network. I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit beats them tonight. I wouldn't be shocked because they've been Joe. They got rid of Killian Hayes because he sucks anyway. They got rid of Bogdanovich and Burks. They got assets back. They are playing better basketball now, getting rid of some of those guys. I would not be stunned at 4-1 that Detroit actually could steal it at the Lakers tonight.
Too much talent I'm sorry, just too much talent here. We're seeing it with Orlando now healthy. We saw the transformation from OKC with all this young talent, what we're getting this year. Detroit wasn't going to be a 5-win team forever with the quality of the talent that they have there. And they got a pretty decent coach, too. So I like the direction that we're heading, but you better hurry up and take advantage because once the market catches wind that they've covered 12 of the last 14, you're not going to be getting these numbers very much longer, especially, Coach, if they beat them here tonight. New Mexico, Nevada is the other big one coming out tonight here, Coach. New Mexico getting 2.5, 2 points. I love Nevada, but they can't shoot the 3, and if they don't get to the foul line, they can't score points. I love Patino out there. I think New Mexico, they gave him fits a couple of weeks ago. They're going to give him fits again. You can't hit threes. You're not going to win in college hoops.
No, if you can't hit threes, you're not going to get it done. But listen, New Mexico is people think of New Mexico as a team that only wins when they're at home at the pit, right? They did go to Wyoming and won by 18. They did go to San Jose State as a 10-point favorite, won by 20. You know, they have good wins on the resume. I think that this is a team that is very, very good, and they're getting disrespected because they're on the road. I like New Mexico on the money line to go to Nevada and get the win.
It's kind of tough not to see those points and be like, wait a minute, revenge for Nevada. But again, they got beat in the pit easily. Why? Because it's not a great matchup for them. I don't think it's a great matchup here tonight for them either. Coach JY, appreciate it, my man. Enjoy those seats you will inevitably be sitting in here in the next day or so. GTD returns next.
$200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. the New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Loaded slate here in college hoops. 25 games on tap. A lot of top 25 matchups here. 5-6 games, in fact, in the NBA getting ready to come up. But this is a loaded card in the NHL here tonight. And who better to talk some of these games here than a man who is under 8 feet of snow and ice, George Kurtz, in the house here, welcoming in. Kurtz, I would say thank you for showing up because, I know you had many other things to do, but in your case, you're snowed in anyway, so it's good to see you. And just to pile on top of that, we're going to talk a little NHL because what better way to do it here than 11 games with some intriguing storylines, to say the least here. The NBA, I was saying earlier, Kurtz, they got a week off. They won't be back until next Thursday as they finish the last of the couple of games before the break. No, we're past that here in the NHL. We've got the Blues now have won 7 of their last 8. Colorado, have they won a game since the All-Star break? I don't think they have. And yet they got to go at it. So what are we doing here?
Hey, you mentioned the NHL is done with the bye weeks, done with the All-Star break, so now it's the push before the trade deadline on March 8th, right? You got pretty much 3+ weeks here. Are you a contender? Are you a pretender? Let's figure things out there. So that's what's going on in the NHL here. So there are some interesting games tonight, no doubt. I guess the marquee early game would be Tampa Bay and Boston. I'm on Boston here, all right? Tampa Bay, they look like an old and slow team. They're still good, but they're old and they're slow here. So it's hard to like Tampa Bay here. Especially when on the road. Home, they're a little different, but on the road, hard to like them there. So I'm on Buffalo early here. Game is still scoreless now. We do have our first goal tonight that I can see here. As Buffalo has scored against the Kings to take an early 1-0 lead. Yeah,
shocker. Buffalo overs. Shocker. Not at all, actually. That's kind of exactly what we assumed. But talk to me here. If I got a St. Louis Blues team that has been rolling, right? And they're now a $2 underdog against Toronto, and yet the Leafs have lost 2 out of their last 3. Better team, maybe? St. Louis heating up as a dog here tonight, or are you not buying it?
Oh, I'm buying it, but I'm buying more the over here. All right, Morgan Riley got suspended today, right? We knew that was coming for the what do you want to call it? The angry empty net goal where Greg of Ottawa slap shot into the net, and then Riley cross-checks him in the head. He got 5 games, so he's done. And I don't think people realize, no, he's not Matthews or Marner, Tavares, I know Nylander, but he might be the most important player on that team because they don't have defensemen there. and he is a very good defenseman. They're in trouble, Toronto. I think they give up a lot of goals here. It's not like their goaltending is good enough to cover up for this. Samsonov, it doesn't matter. Martin Jones, doesn't matter who they have there. So I think goals are coming here, and there's no way I'm laying 200 with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just can't do that. So I am on the Blues here. And of course, as I say that, the Toronto Maple Leafs have scored a goal.
Of course. Absolutely, of course. Bennington, damn you here. But it's been a nice stretch for them. It hasn't been a great stretch for Colorado. What is it, 4 now? 4 games? When's the last time Colorado lost 4 games in a row here? And now they're taking on, well, you want to talk about it. You think Boston's old. What about the AARP Washington team here with still as a dog on home ice against a team that seems to be a little discombobulated after the All-Star break here?
We've seen Colorado go through this before, right? Devin Tays, the defenseman there, actually crushed the team in an interview, a post-game interview, saying, we're not trying hard enough, we're not doing the right things, that sort of thing. So Colorado has been, they don't go into long losing streaks, right? But we've seen this before. You said they've lost 4 straight here, 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10. So they were on a good streak before that, and now they're on a bad streak here. But as you said here, Joe, and I know you and I have discussed this before, I have no idea how the Capitals win games. All right, this is not a very good team. Ovechkin's not scoring goals. John Carlson's not that defenseman anymore. Their goaltending has been – Lindgren's been good. Kemper has been so-so here. No idea how they win games. They are kind of in a playoff spot here. They're only 2 points behind the Devils and Islanders for that final spot. They do have a game in hand on the Islanders, even with the Devils there. So it's an important game here. That being said, I'm going to go with the Avalanche figuring it out tonight. A small play here, nothing great. I know it's a road game, which you don't like here, but I said I don't know how the Capitals win games. I just don't.
So what you mentioned that your Islanders taking on the Kraken here, I believe, and is it Grubauer in net? Didn't they use the kid last night? I think their number one pick was in goal there. So now it's good. I guess it's going to be Grubauer here. What are we doing with the Islanders? They're very confusing to me again, Kurtz. What are you thinking here with Sorokin, who, by the way, has been pretty good out of the break? No.
Sorokin's been very good. He's found his game. The Islanders are playing their defensive game better. When the Islanders were losing, it wasn't Sorokin's fault, no matter what his numbers tell you. When you're giving him slot shots, you have to slot shot, you're gonna let him go. You're just going to. They're playing a little bit better defensively here. I'll give you a reason why you would take the Kraken tonight. All right, they played last night that bad. They have Grubauer in net, who hasn't played a game in net at the NHL level in a couple of months now. Maybe he was out injured for a while. This is his first start back. So everything's pointing to the Islanders here, and I'm on the Islanders as well.
Oh, you're backing the Islanders here. I will hope Sorokin can keep it going here for sure there. Another big one here tonight with Carolina taking on Dallas. Almost identical records too, right? 32-20 for Dallas, 30-21 for Carolina. 2 teams that I think mirror each other a little bit here. Very successful, good goaltending, got some guys that can shoot. It feels like a coin flip, but how would you lean in this game?
Well, that's exactly what it is. All right, it is a coin flip here. This is your game of the night outside the 7 o'clock games, right? This is the later game, 8 o'clock here in Dallas. These are 2 very good teams, 2 very underrated teams that we probably don't give enough credit for. Kochetkov versus Ettinger will be your goaltenders in this. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me either one of these teams represented the other the conference in the finals, or both for that matter. These teams are that good here. I think in this case, I know Dallas is at home, but I'll give you the even money with Carolina plus 100 here. Once again, even game, give me the plus money here. And Dallas is good, but they're not great. They're going to run over somebody here. I think it's going to be a close game. Probably lean towards the under as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ottinger's been absolutely ridiculous last couple here. 6, is that what it's posted at? Or it was 6.5 this morning.
I got 6.5.
They bet it. Oh my word! All right. Well, there we go. We know how we're going to play that game without a doubt. I'll take as many of those as you want to give me here. What are we doing? Speaking of the New Jersey Devils, who did play last night, now taking on Nashville here. It feels like this line should be a little bit more than what it is, but tell me, which team do you have less faith in here?
Devils looked good last night. Once again, playing on back-to-back nights, which is automatically going to make me a little bit here, right? Because back-to-back night is tough, and you're playing a decent team, and the Preds are a decent team. All right, Vanacek. Remember, he's got the illness/injury. Once again, the NHL and their state secrets. We don't know exactly what's going on here, but it's an injury/illness. He's not going to play. Dawes played last night. He's the backup. Akira Schmid was called up. He's likely to start tonight. Neither team's announced a starting goaltender, by the way. We think it's going to be Saros from Nashville. Schmid versus Saros. Devils in the second half of back-to-back nights. I know they looked good last night. They looked really good last night. I'm going Nashville, though. It's the back-to-back nights. You got a third-string goaltender in that. I got to go Nashville.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. We've got a couple other games we'll get to when we get back here. Vancouver taking on Chicago, Detroit, and Edmonton, of course. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we do have a pretty interesting schedule tomorrow night, too. I want to ask you about my Panthers and get your thoughts on what this second half is going to bring, because believe it or not, Kurtz, we were just going through it off air earlier about Kansas City Chiefs repeat. Right? UConn in college basketball poised to repeat, right? Could we possibly have another repeat here in the NHL with Vegas? Are you a believer in possibly them also having a pretty good shot at winning back-to-back championships? It's kind of crazy the way this is unfolding. We'll talk about it when Game Time Decisions returns here on the Grid.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside George Kurtz here talking some NHL and a loaded slate here tonight as looks like Colorado put another one on the board. They're up 2-0 over the Capitals now. Buffalo still 1-0 over the Kings. The Lightning, you had mentioned, out in front. Vasilevsky in goal in Boston, 1-0 there. And we didn't mention the Ducks and Montreal going at it. Nothing there. In-game total 5.5, Kurtz. It's either feast or famine here. Is there in any way, shape, or form? It's a pick-em price. I mean, who do you, Montreal at home, or do you think the under is the way to go?
I took Montreal. I think I took a pregame, so I think I was minus 118 when I took it offhand, something like that. Mainly because they're at home. Ducks, neither team's very good. I know Montreal traded Monahan last week, but I think they can get by at home. Anaheim was just a bad team this season, so I went with Montreal. Did not play the over/under at 5.5. I mean, I actually gave some thought to the over. I think you have two great goaltenders here. I do wonder, by the way, if John Gibson, the Anaheim goaltender, could he finally be on the way out to help a team here? Will Montreal trade one of their three goaltenders? What we Montembeau, but do they trade Primo? Will they trade Jake Allen? Not that they're going to really help somebody, not going to be a starter for a playoff team, but could add some depth.
You have also Blue Jackets at the Senators, and I believe they just tied this one up and still got about 10 minutes to go in the first. So this I think the total was 7, Kurtz, when it closed, somewhere around there, and I think it's heading in that direction, isn't it?
Listen, you got the Ottawa Senators. They're an over, okay? This team doesn't play good defense, and they can score goals, and their goaltending has been bad. And they were putting Forsberg in net tonight. Forsberg had it was an ankle injury, Joe, and he came back with IL to play tonight. This was an easy over for me. Columbus can score some goals. I know Merzlikins has played better of late, but we're not talking about a brick wall in net here. This was an easy over. I'm not so sure what it closed at. I bet this earlier in the day was still 6.5, but we should get our goals in this game.
Yeah, it did. It closed just about 7 now, 1-1 in that one there, and now it looks like it's getting off the board, mostly because there's probably another goal. All right, a couple of games we didn't get to here, Kurtz, coming up later, including the Canucks, Vancouver, who has not been playing very well since the All-Star break here, but they are playing Chicago, which, 6 straight? Is it now? They are. How is this team this terrible? It's kind of embarrassing here, Kurtz. It really is. But, hey, now the pressure's all on Vancouver, right? Because you can't possibly go on a road and lose to Chicago, can you?
No, that would be bad. That would be bad. To answer your question, I mean, there's two reasons. Chicago, listen, everybody was in tank mode last year to try and get the best chance to get Connor Bedard, right? And that's just what happened there. They ended up winning them. So, good for that. They did have some other players. Remember Taylor Hall? They signed him out for the year. Corey Perry, we're still not sure what he did, other than it's probably alcohol related. They had to release him. So there's no one left here. Bottom line is there's no one left. And I don't think they're disappointed about this, by the way. Then once again, they weren't going to be good anyway. Bedard's been out now. They think he might come back next week from the broken jaw. They don't mind taking another top pick. They weren't going to make the playoffs this season anyway. Listen, you're taking Vancouver here. All right, I don't think there's any doubt about that. You're not laying the 280. So it's either a parlay or you're going on the goal line, right? I don't mind laying a goal and a half. I think Vancouver wipes the floor with them tonight. What's the worst case scenario? 4-1, 4-2, right. And I think that's your worst case scenario. Best case could be 7-1, 7-0.
It's kind of crazy, the amount of goals here. I think the Canucks have scored 195 goals so far this year, but they've only scored more than, I think, twice more than a couple of goals in the last 11. They have slowed down. We thought they were going to be rolling, but if you got to get right, I guess, dropping 6 goals here against Chicago might make you feel a little bit better, maybe even a team total up and over there. And then, of course, Edmonton tonight. What are we going to do here against Detroit, who I believe has been home with what feels like forever, right? This is like the first road game in a long time, and I can't remember the last time Edmonton actually lost a game at home. So which way do you look at this one here? Is you laying $2 here with Edmonton, or are you putting them in a parlay? What are you doing?
Listen, this is the late game parlay for me. I'll take Edmonton, and I don't really feel great about this, but I'll take the late game parlay here with Edmonton and Vancouver.
Ooh.
Edmonton's lost 2 straight. Lost to Vegas. So no crime to lose to Vegas, fine. And you lost to Los Angeles. All right, no crime to lose to LA. You lost 4-0, though. You got shut out. All right, that was the first game with the new head coach there for the Kings after they fired McClellan there. So maybe they have found their defensive game again, although they're losing to Buffalo right now. So Edmonton hasn't been Edmonton, right? Not the Edmonton we're used to. They've been winning games by playing hockey, not playing, run and shoot. Scoring, winning games 6-5. They are trying to win games 3-1, 4-2. They should not be favored 2-1 over Detroit. Detroit is not a bad team. Detroit can play, and they've actually played well also of late here. I think Edmonton wins the game. I think it's going to be a good hockey game here. I don't feel great about this parlay, but I don't feel great about any of the other options either. This is going to be a late game play here. But I think I'll take the Oilers to win their first game at home in quite a while. You mentioned they haven't lost at home in probably 2 months after that 16-game winning streak. So I'll say they extend their home win streak tonight.
Since middle of December. That's absolutely crazy there. And Skinner 14-4-1 at home. Why are we not playing the over in this one? Is there any particular reason? It feels like the Red Wings are going to be good for 3 goals. Then, 6.5. It just feels like this is going to be maybe the more entertaining game of the night, no?
Ordinarily, yes. This would be an easy over. This would be one of those ones where I think we could hit the over pregame, in-game, 3 or 4 times in games. I think it'll get 7, 8, 9 goals. But the Oilers have played better defensive hockey of the last couple of months. It's a different team than what we're used to. McDavid and Draisaitl aren't playing. Let's open them. Let's burn those wheels, baby, and not back check, not worry about it. We'll outscore them. So my heart wants to go the over here because I want this to be an exciting game tonight. It's just 7, 8, 9 goals, but that's not the way the Oilers have played of late. You're going to have to, I guess, to take the over, be confident. You have to be sure they're going to change their ways here, or that Detroit is still going to score 2, 3 goals. Everyone's still going to score 4. Listen, it's 7:30 Eastern. I imagine by the time this game starts, I will have the over. All right, because I am trying. I'm talking myself into it now because I want to see a high-scoring game. All right, so I probably will talk myself into the over, but it won't be a big play. Not until I see. I think it's a better in-game over than pre-game over is what I'm going at here.
Trying to event that was an ugly loss there against the Kings. The Oilers have. So let's see if they come out with a little more oomph in this one in the late night game there against Detroit. All right. So we were talking earlier about repeats because now the Kansas City is back-to-back NFL champs. And we have pretty much a favorite to do the same thing in college basketball with Connecticut now. We start looking at some of these other sports, including the NHL, and going, it's going to be the year of the repeat here. Vegas, Florida last year. Nobody saw Florida being there. Either of those 2 teams have a shot to getting back to that point for playing for a championship?
Absolutely. We're not talking 2 Cinderella teams here. These were good hockey teams. I know when talking Florida, we can bring up, they only made the playoffs because Pittsburgh choked. They did by losing to Columbus last year. They absolutely did. But Florida's not that team from last year. They're a better team. Bobrovsky's been good in net this year, right? He's been really good here. And we forget that Florida, they didn't have Ekblad and Montour for the first month of the season, yet they were still rolling here. So Florida is a legitimate good team here. If I were to give which team has the better chance of getting back, I might even go Florida because Vegas, as I told you during the break, assuming they're healthy, this is a really good team, but it looks like in round 1, you're likely going to have to play the Edmonton Oilers. All right, you beat them in the playoffs last year. Maybe you can do it again. Round 2, now you play the Vancouver Canucks. Okay, Canucks been the hottest team in the NHL this season. Round 3, now you got to play Colorado or Dallas, maybe Winnipeg. It's just going to be a tough road for any team, not just Vegas, but Edmonton, Vancouver, Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg. Any of these teams to get to the Cup is going to be a nightmare. You're not going to have an easy schedule here, or easy round here. It's where I think it's so important to win your division. At least you win your division, you might get the first round versus Nashville. All right, and I'm not trying to kill Nashville here, but hey, I'd rather play Nashville than Edmonton, Winnipeg, Vegas, or anybody else. You want to win that. You want to win your division to get an easier first round. I like Florida a lot. It could come down to be this simple, Joe. Who makes the big deadline deal? Who gets that player that they need?
That's the $1 million question, right? So we saw some teams last year at this point, Kurtz, right, try to put, Band-Aids on open heart surgery here. Rangers come to mind. What is there a move out there that could be made that's a game changer, you think, or are we just really shuffling the chairs on the deck of the Titanic here for some teams?
There are always players available. The player I wonder is Jake Gensel of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't know if the Penguins are going to be willing to sell out, because how do you explain to Sidney Crosby, Malkin, Letang? I'm sorry, guys. We're not playing for anything this year. They're only 3 points out of a playoff spot, and they have games in hand. So Gensel could be a game changer. He's a free agent, and I don't think Pittsburgh can re-sign him. So you're risking losing him for nothing if you keep him. But if they traded him, that's a scoring winger that would be useful for any team. He has experience. He's been there before. He'd be a very valuable player to any of the teams we just mentioned by the deadline.
Yep. Yeah. Well, depth is an issue here for a lot of teams here. It's a long season, plenty more still to go, but loaded slate here tonight, Kurt. So plenty of opportunities to cash a few tickets for it's all said and done. I'd say get out, get some sun, enjoy yourself, but you've got shoveling to do, my friend. I, however, have tea time tomorrow. Not that, I'm just letting you know. I'll hit one straight for you, though, Kurtz. Always a pleasure, my man, to see you. Cash those tickets here tonight. Game Time Decisions returns in a warm studio next year on the Grid.
Introducing Sports Injury Central's new feature, The Injury Edge, your NFL matchup cheat sheet. See all the significant injury mismatches broken down by offense and defense to highlight where the advantages lie. All for only $2.99 a week. How can you even consider making a bet or setting your fantasy lineup without knowing the injury mismatches? Go to sixscore.com today and get this week's Injury Edge.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Oh, it's a beautiful time. NBA players are going wild. If I had to guess, a lot of people are going to get real angry. No defense, no defense, no defense. See, I want people to understand this, okay? Because we're always honest. When I take that big pause, that means we're thinking about betting big.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy.
The early line.
And what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell,
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game Time Decisions.
You have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live,
Just
prime time.
Yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the fourth inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
that was
late
good betting.
night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid
We did.
information. Did like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Plenty going on in the NHL right now. It was 2-0 a minute ago, now 2-2, Colorado and Washington. So get ready for some goals here. And Toronto added another goal to go up 2-0 over St. Louis. Plenty of college basketball underway as well. Duquesne, Scotty Wetzel's favorite school, loves himself some Duquesne Dukes, going at it against Dayton here in a big Atlantic 10 matchup. And, of course, tip-off just happening right now in Orlando, OKC and Orlando, as well as Brooklyn and the Celtics. And, of course, Scotty Wetzel joining us. Will take over here, top of the hour. He'll have you covered with in-game live prime time on everything that is coming your way here tonight. But Scotty, haven't seen you since the big game, so I got to get your thoughts. Were you on KC? Were you on the 49? What'd you think here?
Yeah, listen, from a betting standpoint, I was thrilled. I was on KC, had the under as well at 47.5, so the hook there helped us out, even despite overtime. What are the chances, right? If you had the over and someone told you before the game, Joe, the game would go to overtime and both teams would score at overtime. You'd think that over would be like in a pretty good spot, right? And not the case if you got at 47.5. So, yeah, I did well with all the props. Boy, we gave out about 15 props, and I literally went 12-2 or 12-3. We had the 35-1 someone throwing a non-quarterback throwing a touchdown pass. I mean, we hit them all the goofy ones. Yeah, we did a pretty good job. So I was happy. I didn't really have a rooting interest as far as fandom outside of the gambling, but it's just you feel bad for Niner fans to a certain extent. I mean, they've been pretty fortunate over the years having some real good quarterbacks, and they've won their share of Super Bowls. But they're not going to win, Joe, with Kyle Shanahan as head coach. They're just not. I love to be like my only kind of fan rooting was that people wanted to prop this guy up to be the greatest thing in the world. I'm sorry, you and I could be offensive coordinator for San Francisco with all those weapons and have some success. So the fact that he's now taking a little heat because he wasn't smart enough to know the overtime rules or smart enough to tell the players the overtime rules and have another blown 10-point lead. So I kind of get a little kick out of that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I laugh at it too, Scotty, because it was people are complaining, oh, what a boring game. Like, listen, we should be that bored every year with the Super Bowl. I'll take that kind of boredom anytime because how little we forget. We can go back to some very boring Super Bowls. This wasn't that. Any game that stays within one score as much as it did, give me that all day long here. But the big question now, Scotty, is that we just got out of almost 2 decades of Brady and Belichick. And I would consider that to be a dynasty. That word is being used here with this Chiefs and Mahomes. I mean, the kid's only 28. It's like, here we go again. Listen, you got to be considered a dynasty here at this point, isn't it? And those don't come around that often.
Yeah, especially in football. Football, it's tough, right? Because the shelf life for these guys are so short. Plus free agency being thrown in there, salary cap issues. Quarterbacks making $50 million. So it's tough. So if there's a dynasty, they are it. And every single team has got to know, Joe, from here on out, that Super Bowl for the next 5-6 years is going to go through Kansas City. Now, whether they actually get to the Super Bowl, different story. But, you're lining yourself up. How do we beat Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City? And I brought this up, and it may sound like crazy to think of it, but 4 years ago, similar spot, right? San Francisco, 10-point lead in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, obviously. Patrick Mahomes, they don't win. What happens, a year or so later? The very next year, they make the big trade with the Dolphins. They move up in the draft to go get Trey Lance. So they knew, I guess, that Jimmy G wasn't going to ever be good enough to beat Patrick Mahomes. He just, good quarterback, but he's never going to be at that level. And I just wonder if San Fran is at least having discussions about Brock Purdy. Same thing. Is he really ever going to be that good? Because if not, then we got to move off him like they moved off Jimmy G.
Well, the argument could be made is that they probably could have had one last year if he was healthy enough, and they didn't have to go through a backup to a backup to a backup quarterback in the NFC Championship game, and he doesn't return punts. I don't think either. So that might might want to try to figure out. You got to go coach before you do anything else there with the 49ers. I'm just saying, you got to change. You got to look at the new coaches. Some guys have it, some guys don't. I'm kind of with you. How many more Super Bowls do we have to see Shanahan just fold up when it matters the most here? You've got a loaded slate here tonight. College hoops, NBA as well as the NHL. So start us off here in the NHL. Is there any of these games that you're interested in?
All right, I got 2 late games, but just got to play streaks. You know me, I love these streaks, right? We'll start with Vancouver at Chicago. Love the under in this one, 5.5. This Blackhawks team, they just can't score. Listen, they couldn't score when they had Connor Bedard, but they really can't score, Joe, without Connor Bedard. They've been on a monster under run, 10-3 under since he's been hurt. In fact, they've scored 2 goals, not 3, but they scored 2 goals or less in 10 of those 13 games, and really most of those 1 goal or being shut out. I mean, you can hold on one hand how many times they've scored more than 1 goal in this 13-game stretch since Bedard's been out. So they play great defense. They're conservative. They don't give up a ton of goals. So under 5.5 at home against Vancouver, like that one a lot. And then under Edmonton, believe it or not, someone pointed this out to me a few games back, but it's true. We're all talking about the Edmonton Oilers winning streak, right? 12 in a row, or 16 in a row, whatever it was, 16 in a row, right? But they've also had a monster under streak. They're 13-1 under their last 14 games. So, and Detroit is 6-3 under their last 9. Sounds like an under 6.5 play to me. Seems like it's going to be a no-brainer. I mean, you think Edmonton high scoring, 7-3, 6-3, right, whatever, but that's really not been the case. They've actually done a pretty good job limiting the amount of goals they give up. So give me the under 6.5 at home against Detroit.
Oh, all right. So we got a couple of late-night NHL games. We've got 2 NBA games just underway now here. Magic and Thunder and the Nets and the Celtics. And, of course, this Sunday is what a competitive all-star game this is going to be. It usually is, Scotty. I'll take the over 420 points in that one there. But last game here for some of these teams before this little reprieve here. Any of these 6 games you were interested in?
Yeah, you got to be careful, right? I mean, if what happened in the NHL is going to happen in the NBA, then you got to bet unders, which is obviously very tough to do in the NBA these days, right? So I was automatically kind of looking for unders just because if you remember in the NHL, but that last week, nobody scored. I mean, it was all 1-0, 2-1 game. They were like, where's the All-Star break? Let me get to it. So I that would be my angle this week in the NBA. I like Minnesota. It won't be an over-under play, but I do kind of side with the under with Minnesota all the time. But I like the teacups, as we like to call them, against Portland. Laying a big number on the road, 9. But I will tell you, out of the last 18 losses by the Trailblazers, 15 of those 18 have come by 9 points or less. So unless you think they're actually going to win this game outright, and I don't be afraid to lay the 9 with Minnesota. Got to play the under on the Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns, 244.5. That's going to be that's just a monster number. The scores have come down, right, Joe? The last couple of weeks, if you notice these NBA scores, they're not like the crazy 135, 130 like it was earlier this year. So that's a monster number to get to. I'm going to go under there. And then we're going to play under LeBron James. This has been a constant play for us for the last month plus. 24.5 is a super low number. He's got an ankle injury, so he might not end up playing. But he has gone under his points total, 13-4 last 17 games. He doesn't miss by much, I will tell you that. He literally comes a point or 2 under every single. It's almost like, I'm not suggesting things are rigged, but if you were, it's always like to the over, right? Oh, he always gets it by a half a point. Well, he's always not getting it by a half a point. If it's 26.5, he'll get 26. They'll lower it to 25.5, he'll get 25. They lower it to 24.5, he gets 24. They bump it up to 26 and they're playing a lousy team, he'll get 26. I mean, he's coming. It's amazing. He's coming like a half a point shy every single game. So we'll go under LeBron James' point total, 24.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't be running to the window to lay double digits with the Lakers against one of the hottest ATS teams in the league here right now with Detroit. So, but LeBron should be good enough to show up and show out against a sub 500 team. What do we do in college hoops here tonight, though? 25 games here, a lot of top 25 teams in action here tonight. Some of these early games off and running. Was there any one of these you were investing in?
I did like Providence today at home against St. John's, laying a point and a half.
The Johnnies.
Kind of a must-win situation. St. John's has struggled on the road, although they did win their last road game. They played well. But this is like a big-time kind of like moment of truth game for Providence. They've been struggling a little bit, but at home, basically pick them. So that was the one game that I looked at, that I knew was going to be already underway once we started talking. But I got 3 late games, not really late, 9 o'clock, starts in about an hour or so. Love the over, Ole Miss and Kentucky, Joe, 162.5. Kentucky has scored 90, not 70, not 80. They've scored 90 or more points in 9 of their last 13 games. Ole Miss has given up 80 in 7 of their last 11. So chances are pretty darn good Kentucky's getting 90-plus today. And if that's the case, then I think there's a pretty good chance this goes over. They've lost 3 straight home games. I think you're going to get a monster effort out of them. So I think they win. I don't know if they cover the big number 9, but I do like the over 162.5. Got to go over. It's an ugly game. Louisville and Boston College, 149.5. Both stink, but you know what? The Cardinals are 8-3 over to this number their last 11 games. They do score. They like to get up and down the court. They can't guard anybody either. Boston College is not great, but minus or 149.5. 81-73. I could definitely see that happening. So we'll go over there, and then don't ask why, but why not? San Jose. San Jose laying 3.5 at home to Air Force. I mean, both these teams stink, Scott. Why are we playing this one, right? Because Air Force has lost 13 of 14, and San Jose is actually 7-7 at home and on neutral site games this year. So, give me the Spartans. Why not? Late game.
I'm with you there. Air Force can't hit threes. They're terrible. San Jose State actually takes a lot of threes. They're much better at home than they are on the road. I'm kind of with you here. They should have much more success in this one here. And I'm seeing New Mexico, the money starting to roll in on them in that late night game against Nevada. Yeah, I don't know how we don't look at them. Nevada at home in a revenge spot, but New Mexico, at least one Patino might actually win a game here tonight. They're out in New Mexico. Scotty Wetzel, he's got you covered. Coming up, guys, in just a couple of minutes, in-game live, prime time here. You don't want to go anywhere. NHL, NBA, college hoops, plenty going on as we get ready for another loaded slate of games coming up. Scotty, enjoyed it. Good luck with those plays tonight. We'll close it out next here on The Grid.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in as we look to close out this edition of Game Time Decisions. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you hanging out with us as in-game live primetime is coming your way over the next couple of hours, and they'll have their finger on the pulse of everything that's going on around all the sporting events here tonight. NBA action happening, NHL action, and a ton of college hoops here tonight. And the Celtics right now on top of the Nets, in fact, 26-23. We also have the Magic and the Thunder doing battle right now, 29-28, 2 minutes ago in the first. Coming up top of the hour, tip-off with the Miami Heat visiting the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks are an 8-point favorite in that one. 223.5 is the total. A quick look at some of these earlier games here. Marquette pulling away from Butler 57-45. How about the Dukes? Duquesne 33, Dayton, number 16 Dayton, 36. They're at the break there. Also, we've got Iowa State, Cincinnati with Iowa State holding an 8-point lead right now at the break, handling their business against the Cincinnati Bearcats, who are at home. They're going to need a big second half if they are going to pull off the win. And keep in mind, unranked team at home right now, they were the favorite, and they're down 8 here. So they're going to need a big second half. And Michigan, do they even still play college basketball? Yes, they do. And they're getting crushed by Illinois right now, 47-29. And Virginia at home, down 4 against Pittsburgh right now, 35-31. And believe it or not, the Johnnies are on top of Providence by 2, 35-33. That is coming to the break. And much, much more still to come your way in college basketball, NBA, NHL. You don't have to go anywhere because we have got you covered. In-game live prime time is next. Game Time Decisions. We'll be back again tomorrow. Good luck with your plays tonight. We'll see you again soon.